Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be focusing on my second week at Codesmith, and just so for a brief review, my first week at Codesmith we were pretty much just doing data structures and algorithms, and it was over here and it was pretty straightforward to me, like I knew most of the stuff. But in the second week actually we started focusing on front end, and so for the front end I didn't really work with most of these things, and so this is all pretty new to me. And so I'm just going to go over kind of what we did. So we start off Monday. Every week they have an assessment, and so because we did data structures and algorithms last week, we went over an assessment of data structures, and it's a pretty straightforward assessment. Just build a basic data structure with some basic methods, like I'd say like a LeetCode easy question type of thing. And then we went into DOM manipulation and jQuery. So they showed us how to manipulate the DOM and use jQuery, and they briefly mentioned jQuery, but jQuery is pretty outdated, so people don't really use it. And then we went into so they have these skill builders. So what they do is like they teach you a concept and then they give you a skill builder, which I will say you don't really have a lot of time. You don't really have a lot of time to work on it. So this first one, they gave us an hour and 15 minutes, but really I feel like I only had like an hour or less because a lot of the lectures run over. And so you don't have too much time to work on it. But I can show you what that looks like. So essentially we were given some data and we had to manipulate the DOM to take in a data and put it into an HTML page using JavaScript. So it wasn't too hard, but yeah, you have to get the data, you have to figure out how to like take this data, go through it, and you could see a lot of this data had empty spaces, so you had to handle that kind of thing where if you have no data, you have to have some kind of default value and essentially make a calendar. But it wasn't too bad. And so then we went into the first like project that we had to do. It wasn't a project, I guess it was more like you work with a person to work on something, and this unit was on DOM manipulation, and I can actually pull that up here. So essentially what it was is you make a snake game, and the way it works is you have a snake and you have an apple, and so you have this like apple, and then you have a snake, and the snake has a head, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the head of your snake hit the apple, and then as soon as you hit, so I can actually look at the requirements here, as soon as you hit the apple, then you need to move your apple. So you want to have a head and you want to have an apple. It should be within the size of the board, and then you remove the apple when the head of the snake reaches the apple, just like a normal snake. You move the snake around, and when it hits something, then you move it, and then there was an extension. We actually didn't get to the extension because we only had one day to work on it, so we only got to like the head moving and hitting the apple, and the apple respawning essentially is what we got, because it took us a little bit of while. It took us a little bit of time to figure out how to get the apple to move and things like that. And then we had a lecture on implicit bias. So like I said, at Codesmith, they have a lot of lectures on, like behavior in the workplace, good things to do. So they talked about, like stereotypical things that can happen to you or you might say something where you don't think it's offensive, but it actually is. Like they had some examples, where like some girl said that like someone called her Korean or Chinese, or or you're pretty attractive for a Chinese person, or things like that, where like someone might not think it's offensive, but it's offensive to them. So they gave a bunch of examples of that and like what to do and what not to do. And then they also have tech talks where essentially someone that's in the last 6 weeks of the program talks about something that they are doing, and then they present that to the class for 15 minutes, and then you get to ask questions. But yeah, so that was essentially the Monday where we were working on the snake game. And then on Tuesday, we actually had the day off, but I wanted to finish the snake game. And so the rest of it, so we needed to build a body, which was kind of difficult because essentially you needed to build a body and it needs to follow the head, and the whole body you're making it in the DOM. And so all the body segments are divs. And then you have to like make it grow correctly, make sure the snake doesn't like poop its body parts and, things like that, and make sure it moves well. So I can actually show you that here. It wasn't this one. It was this one right here. Definitely took me, like I was just spending, most of my time off working on this. So you could see like you have a snake. So I actually changed the apple to a mouse, but essentially it was, it hits an apple, and then every time it hits the apple or the mouse, you get another body part, and then the mouse reappears randomly. And we also have to make sure that the apple didn't, or the mouse didn't appear within the snake. So we had to check like where's the snake, and if the mouse appears where the snake is, then you have to make it spawn at another random location. But yeah, essentially I got the body to work. It was not super easy, like I said. It definitely took me a decent amount of time to figure out how to like take these divs, add another div, And essentially I used something like a queue where my strategy was anytime the snake head hit the mouse, I would move the snake head first, and if it hit the mouse, then I would put a body piece right where the snake head used to be. And so essentially this works, snake keeps growing, you know, things like that. And then what you also have to do that was not easy was you have to make sure, just like in a real snake game, when you hit the body, you need to like end the game. So you do something like that, where you know you hit the body, you end the game, and then there is also if you hit the wall, you end the game. And I had some music in here, but I don't think I want to play it. It's kind of loud. But yeah, essentially, so this took me about one day. So the first day, like I said, I just got the head to work with the mouse, so it would like go on the mouse, and then the mouse would reappear. And then to do the actual body took me another day or so, maybe like another 4 or 5 hours. Because like I said, I've never really done front end. I made like a simple website or something. But yeah, so also if you hit the wall, then it also ends. Okay. So this is when we had the July 4th, and then we had, so yeah, so what they do that's really good, I think, is every single day you have an hour to work on a data structures and algorithms problem. So they're kind of like building up your understanding of data structures and algorithms. And I think last week we actually had, I'd probably say like LeetCode mediums, like there was, yeah, I'd say around LeetCode medium. So definitely not super easy as in the very beginning where, you know, they just had you do like a FizzBuzz type thing. They definitely get progressively harder, which is good. And so then we went into the presentation on our snake games. We had our lunch, and then they started talking about AJAX and how to fetch data from a server and how to post data to a server. Also brand new to me, so they talked about how to do with AJAX, how to do with jQuery. And then we had the same thing. You work with another partner on a chat room this time where you're trying to get messages from a server and trying to post messages to a server. And so that's what we were doing for these next 2 days, for the Wednesday and Thursday. We were working on that, and then once again, seniors presented things they were working on. And so the way this usually works is you work with a partner for 2 days, and then you might review your code with another group, and then they usually have like a presentation of like, here's what the correct way of doing it is. And then you have, and I do think this is a little annoying, is they do have a presentation of like what it's supposed to look like, and you don't have that much time to refactor your code, right? You have like an hour or so. So yeah, so here was like, you know, 30 minutes. And then you have your feedback. And so I can actually pull that up here. So let me just pull up the chat room that I made. So it was, just double check here, minute 5. Okay. Okay, it should be good. Now let me pull it up here. We also had by the way, so in the calendar, we also had like a little bit of time to work on a skill builder, so they do have these skill builders again, where we had a little bit of time to work on it, but honestly, I didn't have that much time. And so I just like didn't really do anything essentially, because you just had like an hour or something. Yeah. But I think that was actually during this junior hack hour for the first, for the first like hour, it was just like no time at all. So I do think like the skill builders are more like, honestly, if you don't get things done, it's kind of expected. You know, it's totally fine. And then you can just work on like the main project. But essentially, so this chat room is, you're getting messages from a server, and it's just like a big it's like 10,000 messages in JSON format. And then what you can do is you can type stuff. So we just have like a username message. So let's say like test, you know, whatever, have a message, you submit it. And then this will actually fetch new messages. So this isn't like we just write our text to the DOM here. This is actually posting this message to the server and getting new messages from the server. So yeah, it's not just like this is all messages from the server. And when you're essentially just fetching, like I think we just had something where we're fetching new messages every 3 seconds, and then we're just posting the last like 100 messages. And so kind of like how a chat room would work, right? You're not going to have like 100,000 messages. But yeah, so that was during Thursday. And then we did the same kind of thing. So we had an approach lecture on the chat room where we kind of got shown how it was done, and it was pretty good. And I definitely feel like this week we just did a ton of stuff, and it was all brand new to me. So like, I think I learned quite a bit. Like it was a ton. Yeah, but anyway, so Friday we had the other junior hack hour. So like, again, they have this every day. I think this was actually a pretty tough problem. So they had the duplicate number problem that I had, that I have a video on, and someone solved it with one thing that I didn't see, where you can sum up the numbers. So it was essentially like a duplicate number problem where you have like numbers k through n, where k can be anything, and you have to find the duplicate number. Like you can YouTube my duplicate number problem. So essentially it's the same thing as 1 through n because you can just subtract k from all of them. But yeah, so someone solved it using a sum, which was kind of clever. I did the Floyd's Sturgis in the hair thing that I showed in one of my videos. And then we had an intro to React, and I didn't really have any practice with the React. And we had a skill builder, which I was trying to get my server to run, and I think I was like loading the wrong page. So because in React you have to like load your server, and usually we loaded our page with like index.html and things, so I was just loading the wrong page and I could never see it. So I didn't really finish that. But yeah, so we had a lecture about React, and they explained how React works, how to like bring components down. And so we made a tic-tac-toe game, and we had 2 days to do it. And honestly, because React was brand new to me, so that what they want us to do in this tic-tac-toe game, I can actually show the requirements. So let's see here. And they want us to do it in a way where it's not like the best way to do it, but it's more on you just learn React. So essentially, you make a box, you give it some style, and then you want to see if you can make the change. You want to see if you can make the box the state change every 300 ms, just to see if you can do that. And then you learn about set interval, clear interval, and then now you want to change the box set based on clicks. And so what they wanted you to do was to have a row component and a box component and a board component that renders 3 rows, where really what you can just have is you can have like an app and a board for a tic-tac-toe game, which would be like a little bit more straightforward. Sorry, not an app and a board, an app and a box. And you just have 9 boxes, but they wanted us to have like rows, boxes, and the board just so we can like learn how to pass down states from component to component. And honestly, we had a lot of trouble. So even though we got the game to work originally, we kind of hacked our solution where we didn't really use proper coding. It was a lot of, like if a developer at a job saw the code, they'd be like, this is terrible, but it worked. Because we just made a lot of hacks, essentially, like where we tried something like setting the state and then getting the state right away, and we were like, why isn't it working? Because we didn't understand how setting the state worked. But we did get it to work, so we did get it to like work. We got it to check for a winner and things like that. And so yeah, so they wanted to check for a winner, then swap through the turns, and let me see here. So that's essentially what we did, and then they showed us the solution. And then I spent actually today working with a front-end friend of mine. So I was redoing it, and then I had a lot of questions, and so he would answer like, okay, you got stuck here, here's like the proper flow in React, here's what you'd want to do, things like that I learned a ton from, honestly. And so let me see if I can, I don't need to pull up the code, but essentially I can show you how that works as well. So let me just clear this out. It's going to be in here. But yeah, essentially, I took all my code, I deleted it, and I pretty much made a brand new tic-tac-toe game. But I tried to follow like proper React, like not hacking through a solution, but actually like using the states correctly. Not just having a hack in all our stuff, because or essentially our first solution was very not good, and so we definitely tried to make it better. Okay, so if I do npm start here, I think it should work. I should be able to open up my server. Yeah. Okay, so perfect. So essentially what happens is all these start with lines, and then the way it works in a normal tic-tac-toe game, and this is what I did today, was so the first click is an X, then whatever the second click is, it is an O, but you can't click on the same box twice. So if I click on like this, it's not going to move. But if I click somewhere else, it turns into an O. And then so it's just like a normal tic-tac-toe game, and then it will find the winner. So like let's say this person wins, it'll tell you the winner, and then you can hit the reset, which will reset the board. And then also if you have like a tie, I just want to make sure I don't like fuck this up. Let's see here. Okay, so yeah, so if you have a tie, you can reset. And so the way I checked for conditions, I thought was pretty good, and it was scalable. So the way I checked for it was actually like a more of a algorithms problem type of thing. So that's definitely, I think, where my strong suits are, where as soon as we get into like bulky algorithms code in a front end, like front end piece or like React, that's I think that's where my strong suit is. And so I made my code. So what I did is actually had an array of row totals, an array of column totals. And I wonder if I could pull that up, to be honest. Let me see here. And then I passed stuff down correctly. So I think I could just do something like this, and I could show some of it. Yeah. So let me do that. Okay. And so, yeah. So basically, I had an array of row totals, column totals, and diagonal totals. And then what I could do is just, I made my x equal to 1 and my o equal to 3. And then whenever one of those values had a 3, there was a winner. And this was much more efficient than just manually checking game states. Because if you did want to make this board like 4x4 or 5x5 or whatever, I think with my implementation, it would be a lot easier to change. Where like a 5x5 or, it's a 10x10 board, you need to check like, 100 or whatever elements, which is not super efficient. So I think that's definitely the thing that I was doing well. But yeah, as you could see, so I had an app, I had a board, and then I had a row here, and then a box. And then I also learned, which was kind of good, I learned how to pass down states in an object and how to, for my friend, that was definitely kind of useful. But yeah, essentially, this thing worked and it pretty much did what I wanted to do. And I think I was pretty happy with it. I think I learned a ton, to be honest, because like I've been using React for 2 days and I feel like I've learned a ton. So I definitely think, just a brief overview of this week, I would say I feel super happy about it. I feel like I learned a ton of information, where the last week I was like, oh my God, like I'm just doing a review and it's basic and like, what am I doing? Like this week I just learned, like, I feel like an infinite amount of information, and we only had 5 days of class. So definitely, if things keep going this way, I think I'm gonna just like, yeah, I just feel like I learned a ton. And I will definitely say that for a lot of these, it was really nice to have the day off because it let me catch up. So for my snake game, like I took a whole day, or a lot of time to catch up. And for this React, I also took the Sunday to catch up. And so for this next week, just to give you a brief overview, like kind of a brief look into, we're going to be doing Redux and UX UI. This is also new to me, and we're going to start doing backend. This is also all pretty new to me, so I'm kind of hoping that for most of these projects, I don't fall too far behind, where I try to finish them, or at least have a very good understanding, so I don't have to like spend a bunch of time outside of class. Because if I have to do that for all of them, there's just no days off. So that's definitely gonna be tough. Where for these ones, like for the snake game, I need to spend a day, and then for the React game, I need to spend a day. For the chat room, we pretty much got everything, so I was kind of happy with that. I didn't feel like I needed to spend any more time outside of the class. Like that definitely was flowing well. And that's also kind of the other thing, that there's a lot of randomness, where like my partner for the chat room was like, I think we worked really well together. Plus, honestly, it wasn't a super tough project. And so you might get like a React where some guy has React experience that you're working with, and then you'll just do things like 3 times faster. You'll learn a ton. And then you might get a guy who struggles, and you might be struggling. And, so there's definitely a lot of luck in terms of like where you get. But that is what it is. But overall, I definitely think I'm super happy with how this week went. And I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. So I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you next week's video. And if you did like the video, then please like it and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.